Hello and welcome to another episode on Maritime Radar. The African Union estimates that the blue economy currently generates nearly $300 billion for the continent, creating more than 49 million jobs in the process. These are many other crucial benefits, most notably food security, sustainable livelihoods, and biodiversity, are entirely dependent on the health of the oceans. By safeguarding and enhancing marine and coastal health, countries will be in a better position to take full advantage of the future of the blue economy opportunities, which range from sustainable blue energy to aquaculture and more. Important sectorial development issues such as these are at the front burner of our conversations on Maritime Radar. I'm Nneoma Obi-Asualo. The blue economy is at the heart of the economic development and competitiveness of Africa's coastal countries. However, unsustainable infrastructural development, inadequate management of natural habitats and resources, as well as pollution, are threatening their productivity. Climate change-related events such as rising sea levels, land subsidence, storm surge, and coastal flooding are increasingly making Africa more vulnerable. The challenge before the continent is how coastal countries in Africa can manage their coastal and marine landscapes right now to spur economic growth and reduce poverty while adapting to the effects of climate change. In this episode, our focus will be on ocean governance and the blue economy. But before we go further into today's lineup on the show, let's look at the latest in maritime news.
Exercise Obangame Express is the largest multinational maritime exercise in Western and Central Africa, with 28 countries participating in its 12th edition this year. At the flag-off ceremony held in Lagos, the flag officer commanding West, Rear Admiral Yakubu Wambai, in his opening remark, said the exercise presents an opportunity for the Nigerian Army to work together in the spirit of the Yaoundé Accord to fight criminal activities on our waters.
Let me reassure members of the public that the Nigerian Navy and indeed the Western Naval Command will continue to ensure the necessary conducive maritime environment for legitimate businesses. The challenges in the maritime domain require more collaboration and information sharing. Thus, we are requesting our partners in progress, particularly members of the public, to bring forth credible information needed to enhance security and safety in the maritime domain.
The Command U.S. 6th Fleet Vice Admiral Thomas Ishay, in his remarks, reiterated the exercise will create maritime domain awareness.
By supporting and participating in activities like Obangame Express, we contribute to building partnerships, capability to counter criminal activities that threaten the nation's ability to support its own people. Only African nations can solve African problems, and the United States Navy and United States Coast Guard are glad for the opportunity to partner with these nations to help support these efforts, which build and secure free, open, and prosperous societies.
The U.S. Consul General, who was also present, applauded the collaboration to address security issues, saying that African solutions to the global problem has become imperative.
We learn from one another, and we're going to learn from you today. And we share those best practices because we no longer live in a small, closed world where we can think only about the problems in our own territorial waters or within our own country, because they're transnational threats: climate change, piracy, counter-narcotics. And I'm so proud to stand with my Nigerian partners to work on those issues.
Nigeria's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Geoffrey Oyema, focused on cooperation for security, which he said would guarantee economic development. Reiterating the collaboration was the way to go.
We're extremely delighted to hear from, becoming a real global black spot, the Gulf of Guinea, that it's almost is virtually zero now, zero piracy. And And this is a huge achievement.
The special guest of honor, Chief of Naval Staff, Vice Admiral A.Z. Gambo, noted that the exercise will impact combat operations through training and collaboration. He promised the Nigerian Navy continuous commitment to eradicating criminal activities at the Gulf of Guinea.
Accordingly, the exercise is designed to improve regional collaboration through joint operations, intelligence sharing, and harmonized legal frameworks to enhance collective capabilities of Gulf of Guinea nations against maritime crimes. This year's exercise is particularly instructive, considering the efforts of the African Union at establishing and operationalizing regional task forces. This will no doubt enhance the African Continental Free Trade Agreement as well as development of sustainable blue economy.
The 12th edition of the Obangame Express military training exercise featured both in port and at-sea training scenarios. The training exercise is conducted by the U.S. Naval Forces Africa, facilitated by U.S. Africa Command, providing opportunities for African and U.S. forces to address shared transnational maritime concerns. News Central's Adeshewa Odushoga reports.
With an estimated 24 billion barrels of crude oil reserves, countries in the Gulf of Guinea, otherwise known as GOG, still face one of the world's most severe maritime security challenges, like terrorism, piracy, crude oil theft, amongst others. To put an end to this, the GOG countries have in the last 11 years spearheaded the largest multinational maritime exercise in Western and Central Africa to develop African-led solutions to shared transnational challenges and promote global security. In its 12th year, the Obangame Express training is hosted in Nigeria with an import training component conducted by the U.S. Naval Forces Africa, championed by U.S. Africa Command.
During this exercise, we will practice events just like we saw here with boarding and search and seizure, the ability to conduct maritime domain awareness, not with just the Nigerian Navy, but with all of the partners in the region so that we can have a shared sense of maritime security here. And I think that the successes of this exercise series are evident, and I'm sure most of you are aware that piracy in the region has been very low in the last year, thanks to efforts by the Nigerian Navy and the partners that come together for this kind of exercise.
The 2023 edition kicked off with 33 participating nations who are engaging in maritime operations, center familiarization and exchanges on medical care, search and rescue operations and boarding techniques.
Okay, from here we learn many things than how to find scene creams and how to protect the scene cream when we are at sea, to protect indies and evidences, to help specialist guys to make their job. And also we learn about self-defenses techniques, how to protect ourselves when we are at sea against enemies and other guys, and also how to clean a room, and we have different rooms to clean against enemies also, and how to work together, how to progress in our job.
The Obangame exercise derived its name from the Fang language of southern Cameroon, which means togetherness. The exercise takes place across 5 zones in the southern Atlantic Ocean and Gulf of Guinea, stretching from the West African island of Cabo Verde to the Central African shores of Angola. Adeshewa Odushoga reporting for News Central.
Nigeria's Federal Ministry of Transportation has set up a committee for the proposed Benin and Ondo seaports. The committee is responsible for providing guidance and direction on the ports project. It will also facilitate permits, clearance and approvals for the projects. While inaugurating the committee, the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Transportation, Dr. Magdalene Ajani, said the federal government decided to establish a steering committee for the seaports in line with the government's plan to decongest the western ports and develop the maritime sector. Members of the steering committee includes the Managing Director of the Nigerian Ports Authority, representatives of the Federal Ministry of Finance and Justice, National Inland Waterways Authority, Nigeria Shippers Council, and the Infrastructure Concession Regulatory Commission, amongst others. The committee is to start work immediately. At least 8 people died after a boat crammed with scores of African migrants capsized off the Libyan coast. The local Red Crescent organization said that nearly 100 others have been rescued. Bodies washed ashore near the Libyan town of Castaverde, 40 kilometers east of Tripoli, after the boat sank. The capsizing is part of a growing number of deadly shipwrecks that have killed scores of migrants in the Mediterranean over the past year. The number of migrants and refugees seeking to cross to Europe in search of a safer or better life has grown since COVID-19 pandemic, although it remains below the levels of 2014 to 2015, humanitarian agencies say. According to the Red Crescent, which has been handling the search and rescue operations, eyewitnesses to the disaster said nearly 150 people had packed on to the boat in hopes of reaching Italy. Libya is a major departure point for people seeking to reach Europe because of its proximity to Italy and its own porous borders.
If you are just joining us, this is Maritime Radar. The blue economy can only be sustainable if it protects the environment, ecosystems, and if it is beneficial to Africa's population in the fight against poverty and the improvement of the continent's economic and social standards of living. Its sustainability is also linked to the issues of safety and security. I spoke with Professor Martin Ndende, who is a legal consultant to the United Nations and a world-renowned maritime expert on the realities Africa needs to face on developing the blue economy. He drafted the blue economy strategy of the economic community of the Central African states that brought together 11 member states of the region. Stay with us. Hello, Prof, and good to see you. Let's start
Great pleasure for me also.
Let's start this conversation by laying a historic foundation of the African states in the 70s, where we had a thriving maritime sector until the dynamics of the globalization of the market economy.
Yes. You know, in the 70s, Africa was very organized in the field of maritime industry. All started with a charter signed by countries of Western and Central Africa in 1975, the Abidjan Charter. The aim was to organize our countries in Western and Central Africa so that they should participate in the maritime transport, because there was an international convention signed by the United Nations under UNCTAD. This convention was planning that each country should transport at least 40% of its activities by sea. So this was a chance for our countries, and all of them started building maritime companies. So it was a very prosperous period, starting from 1975 till, let's say, 1990, but we'll talk about it after. A very prosperous period under MOCA, because this charter gave birth to MOCA. MOCA is the organization of maritime activities in Western and Central Africa, based in Abidjan.
From what you have said, it's obvious that
Yes.
Africa is sitting on an immense wealth that must be developed. How then can we revive the maritime sector out of its present state of disaster?
when you have a heavy man fighting with a very small man, this is not possible. We need rules. We need rules, and these rules have to be fair.
What way out of this disaster?
You know, a certain number of countries refused to abandon the rules. A certain number of countries. When you look at Kenya still have its company till today. When you look at Morocco, they still have a company. Even Congo, Brazzaville, they still have a company. They decided to continue to apply because it was an international convention settled by the UN. So they decided to continue. So this was the way we should have behaved. We should have behaved to continue to apply an international convention which was not stopped legally. This is the first solution. Now, after more than 20 years, what is the new solutions? It seems like the new solutions should be to build regional companies. Regional companies in Africa, starting by transporting our goods port by port. You can start from, let's say, Mauritania or Senegal to Namibia and South Africa. I'm sure if we have regional companies doing this work, we will start, we start a new period of activities in the continent. Our companies in Africa were state-owned company, and I think our state didn't do the job well. We need to open this market to private companies, to private organizations. A country like Nigeria has a very strong private sector. I think a private sector in Africa can do this job properly with the banks, with a lot of partners. I think the state should focus their activity on the ports because the port need a lot of investment. They can work well with the port, but let the maritime transport to the private sector, or even create combined private and public sector. This is possible. So this is the solution that we can advise. But the error should be to start immediately transporting around the world. From Nigeria to UK to Korea to China. No, we are not ready for that. We should start transporting our goods from country to country in Africa. Because we have to create a market in the continent. Nigeria has a lot of things to sell to West Africa, to South Africa, and to other countries of the continent. And this is the same. You have countries who can sell fish, other countries who can sell other goods, cocoa, coffee, etc. So we should start exchanging between our countries. And when we are robust enough, we will open our activity to the world. We will continue now to the rest of the world.
Well said. We should start at home. Moving to blue economy, which offers Africa an easier ladder, so to speak, to climb and to take advantages of our water resources. How then can Africa develop its economic activities around our waters?
This is an excellent aspect of our discussion because this is really the future of our continent. Blue economy is really the future of the African continent. First of all, blue economy is all activities around water, marine water, but also continental waters, our rivers, our lakes, etc. So, when you look at only, the resources we have in these waters, this is tremendous. You have a lot of mineral resources. You have a lot of, biologic resources, fish. A country like Namibia is now the most important country in the world extracting diamond from the sea. Diamond, there are a lot of diamond at the sea. Can you imagine? Diamond. So we have a lot of minerals, a lot of gas, a lot of oil, a lot of fish. So this is really the future. So your question is, how can the continent use this new policy to build its future? I think, on my understanding, we have 4 pillars. 4 pillars. If we want to build a strong blue economy in Africa, 4 pillars. The first pillar is to build strong, competitive companies in our countries. We were talking about maritime transport. We need to build companies on maritime transport, but we also need to build companies, strong companies in the fishing sector. Why in Africa only foreign countries are practicing fishing activities? Why? The second pillar of blue economy, if we want to build a strong blue economy sector in Africa, is to think about environment. Because blue economy has to be sustainable. We cannot build our blue economy when we destroy our environment by pollution, especially. But we have a lot of way to destroy the environment. So we have to be very careful on that, to try to keep our environment safe. This is what I call the environmental and ecosystemic pillar of blue economy.
Of blue economy, okay.
Yeah. The third pillar is the social and human pillar. We have to build an economy which is useful to our populations. We are the poor continent. A poor continent living in a very rich environment. Our oceans are full of resources. Our soil is full of resources. Why are we poor? Why can we be poor? It is not possible to be poor when we are so rich. So the idea is that blue economies should profit to our populations. We have to do all so that blue economy should profit to our population. Now, the last pillar is the security and safety pillar. We cannot build blue economy when we have a lot of accidents at sea or in the rivers, when we have piracy at sea, when you have illicit activities, when you have criminal activities around. We have to fight against these dangerous activities because they are killing totally our economy. Just look at the Gulf of Guinea, as a lot of piracy we have in the area.
That was very robust to answer that question. And then the next will be the concerns that is being raised over invasion on our coastal waters. But that will be after this short break. Please stay with us.
News Central TV, Africa's #1 storyteller, has come with the best of both worlds. With a combination of news app and live TV, we ensure that you keep track of the latest headlines, breaking news, and in-depth analysis from professional journalists from around the continent. Download the News Central TV app on Android and iOS and get started today. Don't forget to follow us on News Central's social media platforms. News Central, Africa First.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Maritime Raid, and I still have with me Professor Martin Ndende. Before we went on that break, I had said the concerns raised over invasion of our coastal waters by foreign trawlers. How do we curb the activities of these foreign fishermen encroaching on our waters?
We have to remind that we are losing around $20 billion due to these fishing activities, illicit fishing activities. $20 billion every year. In West Africa, is at least $3 billion, at least. So let me come back now to your question, your new question. About, you were talking about, I think, strategies.
African realities, considering the fact that you drafted the Blue Economy Strategy.
I have first participated to the drafting of the Continental Blue Economy Strategy with African Union. The strategy is based on a certain number of activities, fishing, transport, etc. And the aim is to push our countries invest in these activities and, think about environment, as we were saying a few minutes before. So it's a very good project. It's a very good idea. The idea is that every region in Africa should have is regional strategy, and each country should, duplicate is national strategy on the regional and the continental strategy. But I saw that in Burkina Faso, which is a landlocked country, they have a blue economy strategy. They already have a blue economy strategy. Yes. Ethiopia, which is a landlocked country. Ethiopia has at least, I think, 40 ships. The new idea of blue economy in Africa is that it should not be restricted to coastal countries. Blue economy is opened to everyone who can have water.
Okay.
So even if you are a landlocked country, if you have a river, if you have a lake, you can invest on blue economy, because in the rivers you have fish. In the rivers you may undertake transport. In the river you may have oil, you may have gas in the rivers and lakes. There are a lot of lakes with gas. A lot of lakes.
This has been a robust conversation. I must thank you for coming on Maritime Radar. It's been Professor Martin Ndende. He is a world-renowned maritime expert. I must thank you most kindly for sharing your thoughts on the program. And that's where we draw the curtain on this week's episode. I enjoyed myself. I hope you did. Join us every week on Maritime Radar as we engage industry experts for solutions to the challenges and needed initiatives that will help position the African maritime industry for the continent's prosperity and progress. I'm Nneoma Obi-Asualo. Many thanks for your time.